11th, hearing the screams. "Oh God, that I were a man! I would eat his heart in the marketplace." Much Ado About Nothing, Act 4, Scene 2. Annette Ridgeway had led a life of sufficient privilege, and sufficient just plain good fortune, so that until the age of 17 she had never attended a funeral before. On this cold and rainy afternoon in January, her luck ran out. She stood with a group of her family and friends on the sodden grass beside a long, dark hole of brown earth, into which some men in overalls were about to lower her only sister. Janet Ridgeway had turned 16 only a month before she swallowed an entire bottle of her mother's sleeping pills, and almost a whole bottle of Jack Daniels from her father's liquor cabinet. She then passed out on the plush carpeted floor of the rec room in the $2 million family home in West Lynn, Oregon, and choked to death on her own vomit. Annette stared at Jan's peaceful face, like a golden little angel visible through the glass window at the top of the coffin. The minister was droning in the background about the saving grace of Jesus Christ, but Annette tuned him out. What he was saying had no relevance to what was happening to her. It was just background noise. Annette watched the face in the glass slowly disappearing into the ground, burning into her mind forever the last sight she would ever see of her sister. They had only been a year apart. Annette's parents sometimes joked with them. "You were a mistake, Annie, but you were so beautiful we just had to make another one." This would be the last time that she would ever see this person, this part of her that had been there always, now been ripped away from her for the rest of her life, now sliding down into the earth out of her sight forever. Annette knew that she had to control herself, that she mustn't go insane. She leaned over the edge of the grave, her long blonde hair falling from her black-draped shoulders, straining for that very last glimpse of all. She could see her sister's dead face, barely visible in the shadows at the bottom of the grave, before the dirt began to fall on it and she was gone. Her boyfriend, a tall and good-looking kid in a somber suit named Eric Sellars, grasped her arm, afraid she would fall in. "Annette, we need to go now," he said, quietly but firmly, gently easing her away from the grave. "It's not over," she said. "I know," said Eric softly. He understood perfectly well what she was really saying to him. "But the ceremony is. You need to come away now and be with your parents. They need you." Annette turned and walked away from the grave without another word. She had not cried during the entire funeral, since the one explosion of hysteria and grief in Eric's arms when they had heard the news together. She had not cried at all. Annette went straight to her sobbing wreck of a mother, Lorraine. She quietly took Lorraine's arm from her father and led her back to the waiting black stretch limo parked along the gravel cemetery pathway. It was as if none of the other 100 or so people attending the funeral even existed. Annette ignored them all, and none intruded. Ray Ridgeway stared after his wife and daughter. He was a distinguished-looking man in late middle age, expensively dressed in Armani and professionally coiffed. He prided himself on requiring neither Rogaine nor Viagra at his age, and he had the bright and even teeth of a young man, polished but not even capped. Ray was the CEO of Continental Bank, a senior partner in the most successful brokerage firm on the West Coast, and a power player in the financial world. He had just made the stunning discovery that rich and powerful men down through the millennia always made at some point in their careers, that he was powerless to cheat death. His child was dead, and there was no one to negotiate or bargain with, no one to threaten, no one to bribe, no strings that could be pulled, no way to fix this. Technically, Jan hadn't even been murdered. She had taken her own life. Ray's common sense and lifetime of experience in the real America told him with perfect clarity that the man responsible was completely untouchable, and that there was nothing to be done. He was shaken to the core of his being by the loss of his youngest child, and he was icy with fear for his oldest. He beckoned to young Sellars. He had approved of this boy from the beginning, a steady and intelligent young man planning a career in engineering, and he was grateful for Eric's relieving him of his fears for Annette's future, since even at their young age he could sense that they were a solid couple and would probably make if they decided to give it a go. It was Jan who had been driving him, and Lorraine frantic for the past year. "Eric, is Annette all right?" Ray asked the younger man anxiously. "I don't know, sir," Eric told him frankly. "She won't talk to me, or me. I've tried. I'll try again tonight," said Ray. He did try again that night, asking Annette to join him in his study in the West Lynn mansion. She sat down on the couch, still wearing her black mourning dress from the funeral. "Mom won't take a sleeping pill," she said. "She says she won't ever take anything again. I suppose that's understandable in view of what happened to her last prescription. I think she'll sleep, though. She's exhausted. Empty, I suppose, would be a better word." Ray poured himself a stiff shot of Jack, aware of the irony of consuming the drug that had killed his daughter as a means of ameliorating his grief at her death, although he said nothing. He knew that Annette would catch that irony as well, but he said, "This is a hell of an occasion for me to ask you this for the first time, but do you want one? Have you started drinking yet?" "I don't think I'm going to start," said Annette. "Smart decision," said her father with an approving nod. "But then, all of yours are smart. I wish your sister had possessed your level head." "Dad, no need to dance around it. Jan's decisions were just plain stupid. She was self-destructive. She had no sense of self-esteem and no inner strength. She let the whole adolescent angst thing get on top of her. She just went with the flow. And it killed her. She got involved with drugs, she got involved with a nigger, and she did both at once. If that's not the classic definition of a self-destructive personality, I don't know what is." Ray looked at her oddly. "The psychobabble I get. You picked that up from your mother and her 101 self-help books and fads, not to mention TV. But the racism is a new one on me. Where did that come from?" "Where racism always comes from, Dad," said his daughter calmly. "From close and regular contact with blacks." "Oh? And how many blacks do you have close and regular contact with at Ashdown Academy?" inquired her father. "3, 4? "One was enough," she replied coolly. "Look, Dad, can we take all the shock disclaimers as read? Or to quote one of your own favorite sayings, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. I know what every white person in this country knows, even if they're all too terrified to say it out loud. They're not Africans Americans, they're niggers. They aren't equal to us in any way. They never have been. They can't tie their own shoelaces without an affirmative action program, and they're not even very nice. Now, what did you want to say to me?" Ridgeway looked at her, bemused. "Okay, fine. We'll leave the deep political and philosophical debate on diversity and multiculturalism for another time. And yes, you're right. We all know in the privacy of our own thoughts that when all is said and done, they're nothing but niggers, and they won't ever be anything else. But the fact is that society doesn't allow that viewpoint anymore. I always thought of myself as pretty smart, but I'll admit to you, I have no idea how on earth we have gotten to, well, where we are, but we have. The point is, Annette, and it's the point I have to make sure you understand completely, is that whether we like it or not, we have to live in the real world. Down throughout the centuries, society has always had certain rules that men and women were expected to live by. And I don't mean just the laws on a statute book. Always there have been certain people who, by common consensus, however arrived at, have been allowed to flaunt or disregard those rules, so long as they do so within certain commonly accepted, if unstated, parameters of discretion. This Lucius Flammus is one such. This society has decided, for what reasons I will not even try to speculate, that tall men with black skins who can bounce a ball up and down on a wooden floor are a politically and socially protected species. For all practical purposes, Flammus is immune from the consequences of his behavior. The fact is that other than a few minor narcotics violations, which we can't prove, his behavior isn't only not illegal, it's actually encouraged as part of his public persona. How can you talk about Jan's death in those detached bullshit terms like it was some kind of sociological phenomenon? Cried Annette bitterly. Because it is the only way I can talk about it, the only way I can think about it, and not lose my mind. The only way I can not take that gun out of my desk and go kill Flammus, thereby destroying not only myself but you and your mother, and losing all we have, and leaving you two alone and destitute in this horrible place, said Ridgeway harshly. Annette, suicide is not the solution to anything. It wasn't the solution to Jan's pregnancy, and it wouldn't be any kind of solution for me, or you, or your mother. He knelt beside her. Honey, do you understand what I am saying to you? Do you understand that with your silence, your refusal to grieve, your refusal to accept her death and get on with your life, you are scaring the hell out of Lorraine and me? And Eric, too, I think. So we're all nothing but a bunch of hogs slopping at the great American trough, and every so often the big black butcher comes among us and drags one of us away squealing. And we just look the other way and accept it as the price of all that lovely swill and jam our snouts back in deep, so we don't hear the screams? Demanded Annette. Is that it? Yes, admitted Ridgeway. I know how contemptible that sounds, but yes, Annette, that's how Americans have to live. Because the powers that control our existence have decreed it. You live your life, and you try to do the best you can for yourself and your family. Insofar as possible, you avoid all contact with the system, especially the so-called justice system. You stay away from politics and controversy and anything that might get you noticed. You build what you can for those you love, and you hope to God that every time that black or brown butcher comes into the pen, he passes you and your loved ones by and takes someone else. And you don't hear the screams. You never let yourself hear the screams. You mustn't, Annette. You must condition yourself, harden yourself, train yourself, deceive yourself if need be, however you have to do it. But you never let yourself hear the screams off in the darkness, because if you do, that way lies madness and self-destruction, and you may well drag your loved ones with you. I'm sorry, but that's the way real life is, Annette. I understand how terrible this sounds, and if by telling you this I have lost your respect, then I am deeply saddened. But I am your father, and I have to tell you these things because no one else will. I am telling you, desperately trying to convince you, because you're young and idealistic, and in the world of today that is deadly dangerous. Normally we hold up youth and idealism as good things, and so they are, but only in certain channels that the powers have pre-approved. I know you, honey. I know that stubborn streak you've had since you were a little girl. Like that time when you were 5 years old and you sat at the dinner table until 4 o'clock the next morning rather than eat your Brussels sprouts. You are dangerously close to letting your youth and idealism draw you in a direction that society does not approve and will not allow. I never did eat those damned Brussels sprouts, Annette reminded him. No, you didn't, Ridgeway agreed with a soft laugh. You got me there. But honey, if you try to pursue this matter of your sister's death, you won't be a little girl defying your father in a plate of vegetables. You will be crossing a line that America forbids you to cross, and you will be punished more savagely than I think you can possibly imagine, especially with the, situation here in the Pacific Northwest the way it is now. Maybe the NVA will solve the problem and kill Lucius, said Annette irrepressibly. Maybe, agreed Ridgeway. I have to say I don't think much of his good judgment in remaining at Ashdown in view of what's going down in the city. Nor will I shed a tear if and when that happens. But Annette, I want you to promise me something. Dead serious, I want you to promise me that you won't do anything stupid along that line. His voice was anxious. And just what do you think I'm going to do, Dad? She asked artlessly. Now don't you go pissing down my back and tell me it's raining, young lady, snapped Ray. I know perfectly well what is going on in that beautiful head of yours, and I say to you again, this isn't a plate of Brussels sprouts you can get your way on through sheer mule-headedness. I want you to promise me that you're not going to try to contact this damned gang of racist psychopaths who are running around Portland murdering people and bombing things, and try to get them to kill this Flammus character. And how would I do that? Laughed Annette merrily. Come on, Dad. It's not like they're in the yellow pages under up for assassins or anything. And none of the kids at Ashdown are likely to hang with them after school. Our student parking lot looks like a Lexus and BMW dealership, not a pickup truck with the rifle rack in the bunch. I don't know, but honey, I am scared shitless that you are going to go floundering around in biker bars in McMinnville, or something stupid like that, asking dangerous questions about some truly dangerous people, and you're going to get into some horrible situation. Either the police or FBI will pick up on what you're doing and arrest you under the Patriot Act or Suppression of Domestic Terrorism Act, and I will have to spend half our savings on lawyers to get what's left of you back. Sorry, I know that sounds horrible too, but you know what I mean. Or else what's worse, you might actually stumble across a real racist death squad and they'll kill you. Annette, please. Her father begged her urgently. Promise me you won't do anything stupid like that. We've lost one child, and now you're all we've got left. If we lose you, your mother and I will die too, inside, in a way that doesn't bear thinking about. Please. I promise, Dad, no bars in McMinnville, she told him. Okay, so if you promise to stay out of bars in McMinnville, how do we find the NVA? Asked Eric Sellars as they walked along the quad at Ashdown Academy. They were dressed in their dark blue school uniforms, with a dark green tartan plaid skirt for Annette, along with parkas and sweaters against the weather, their books under their arms. It was their first day back after the long Christmas break. The school authorities had told Annette she could have some more time off if she needed it, but she had responded that she wanted to get back into the routine of school as soon as possible. "We don't," said Annette. She took a deep breath. "Eric, I think we need to quit seeing each other, and you need to put some visible public distance between you and me. I'm going to do something one way or the other, and my father is right. I'm probably going to end up destroying myself just as surely as Jan did when she swallowed those pills. I have no right to take you with me on this death trip." "I'm in," he said. "I mean it, Annette. I'm in. I love Jan too, not like I love you, but she was important to you, and that made her important to me. If you don't want to be with me anymore, I can't make you. But if that's the way you want it, then I'll go after Flammus myself. As corny as this may sound, if I can't be with you, I don't much care what happens to me." "I know," she sighed. "That's what bothers me. I thought a lot about what Dad said, about what will happen to him and Mom and to you if I fuck this up, which I probably will." "But you're going ahead anyway?" he asked. "I have to," said Annette. "It just can't be any other way, Eric. Dad was wrong about one thing. At some time we have to lift our heads up from the trough, and we have to let ourselves hear the screams. I can't let this go, Eric. If I don't let myself hear the death scream of my own sister, if I pretend I don't hear because I'm afraid or because it's just too darned inconvenient to hear, then it will get easier and easier from then on, and eventually I will be just as deaf and dumb and blind as everyone else. Somebody has to hear the screams, Eric, and do something to stop it all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Joan of Arc, and I'm so scared of what I'm doing I think I may shit myself sometimes. But I just can't do anything else." "That old saying about the truth will set you free is crap," said Eric. "The truth isn't liberating, it's lethal. We live in a world based on lies, and anyone who chooses truth, they're going to try to destroy. There is just no way I can stand by and let you go into this alone, Annette. You're doing it for Jan, so am I, a little. But mostly I'm doing it for you. I want to, I have to, and I don't want you to ever blame yourself. You offered me out, and I said no. I'm in. Now how are we going to find the NVA?" "I've got one possible idea," she told him. "About 2 years ago, Dad and I were coming back from the all-state swim meet in Salem. Remember, the one where I won the junior 100-meter? We were in one of his company cars, a Caddy, and as we were going down the interstate, an engine light came on and it started to lose power. Dad pulled off at Woodburn, and we found a gas station with a service section. It was kind of seedy, but the old guy there seemed to know his stuff. Turned out one of the Mexicans at the bank motor pool hadn't bothered to check the transmission fluid, and the transmission was screwed up, and so Dad arranged to leave the car there and called a limo to come down for us from town. Anyway, we ended up hanging around this gas station down in redneck country for a couple of hours. They had a waiting room. Sort of, with some old magazines. And I noticed there were a couple of copies of the Northwest Republic stuck in among the old people in Sports Illustrated magazines. "That's the newspaper the party put out, back before they were banned after Coeur d'Alene?" asked Eric keenly. "Yeah. I wasn't really interested in politics back then, and I just glanced at them. But I wandered into the office area where the vending machines were, and I also noticed that on the back counter this guy had a couple of bumper stickers from the party put up, and a little stand with those little flags in it. An Oregon state flag, but not a stars and stripes crossing it. It was that Jerry Reb flag they show on TV sometimes, the one that looks like France, except it's blue and white and green." "I doubt he still has it there, since it's good for life imprisonment these days," commented Eric. "No, but don't you get it?" Annette pressed him. "That guy must have been with a party, or he knows somebody who is. He might be able to point us in the right direction." "If he's still there," said Eric. "If he hasn't been arrested or fled underground himself after Coeur d'Alene." "Okay, so what do we do? Just walk up to this total stranger and say, 'Hi, guy, can you hook us up with the NVA because we've got a nigger we want them to kill?' I'm sure he'll fall over himself to be helpful." "It's all we've got," said Annette. "Speak of the damned devil," said Eric, his lips turning down in a bitter sneer, his eyes riveted across the quad. Annette looked over and saw a group of students coming out of one of the mellow red brick buildings, all wearing the neat blue serge, uniforms of Ashdown Academy, boys with trousers and girls with skirts and knee socks, and both with a blue blazer and academy patch. In the center of the group was a huge figure, all 6'6" of Ashdown star forward and shoe-in first-rank NBA draft choice, Lucius Flammus. Flammus must have had some Watusi or other Nilotic ancestry. His skin was so black as to look almost as blue as the serge of his jacket, and instead of the usual round negroid skull, his cranium was elongated, almost hatchet-like. Stripped down into his basketball uniform, his body was lithe and superbly muscled, not the typical Negro athlete template built like a refrigerator. As big as he was, Flammus moved down court like lightning, and he shot with the speed and accuracy of a striking cobra. He boasted correctly that in his entire life he had never missed a free throw. If Flammus scored less than 70 points in a game, he was having a bad night. He was 18 years old and still had not reached his full growth. The sports doctor on loan from the NBA who was assigned to his specially tailored training program predicted that with the help of certain special nutritional supplements, he'd top off in a couple of years at 6'8". Lucius Flammus was a stupid being who made up for his stupidity with a sharp, cruel, vicious cunning that compensated somewhat for the fact that he was a moron. He was totally without a single vestige of moral feeling or conscience. He ate, slept, and lived for but two things on earth: basketball and white females. Another one of his boasts was that he had never slept with a black or a Mexican girl. He did not use drugs himself, at least not hard drugs, since that would have interfered with his basketball game. But he kept a whole pharmacy on hand of both legal and illegal substances as party favors and bait for anything and everything white and female he could get near. Using crack cocaine and ecstasy tablets, it had taken less than 2 weeks for him to charm, seduce, and abandon Annette's confused and vulnerable sister Jan, who was just starting her second year at Ashdown Academy, a year behind Annette. Jan hadn't gotten the message, and she had made the mistake of going to Flammus's dorm room one night in November, looking either for more drugs or some kind of reconciliation with the great love of her life, according to Jan's incoherent iPod-recorded suicide note, which Ray Ridgeway had allowed Annette to hear, but not his wife. At the conclusion of this encounter, either the two of them had a farewell breakup fuck or Flammus had raped Jan. This was the act that had left the girl pregnant, depressed, and half out of her mind, or rather more so than she normally was, and that had led to her New Year's Eve freakout and death on the rec room floor. Now Ashdown Academy's official black boy with the ball bebop down the sidewalk, with his admiring Caucasian coterie in tow, laughing, shucking and jiving, and babbling in his best gangsta rapper style. He was completely unconscious of the two pairs of white eyes watching him from across the quad, raging hatred and deadly serious murder in their hearts. After Flammus and his entourage had turned the corner, Annette said, "I've got French class 5th period and a study hall 6th, which I can cut, gym for 6th, which I will be glad to cut rather than look at that ape showing us all how he's got more moves than X-Lax," said Eric. "Feel like a drive down to Woodburn?" asked Annette. "Yeah," said Eric. It was about 4 in the afternoon when they pulled up to Jarrett's Tune and Lube in Woodburn. The sun had come out on their drive down, the Oregon sky was blue for a while, and the rather seedy clapboard gas station was illuminated in the pale wan light of a crisp and cold winter afternoon. They were in one of the Ridgeway family Lexi, the white one, which Annette had decided was appropriate for this trip. They watched as a middle-aged man with long hair and greasy jeans and a plaid shirt pumped some gas for a customer and checked her oil. "That the guy you remember?" asked Eric. "That's him," said Annette. "You're sure?" "I'm sure," she said. "I thought you said he was old." "He is old," said Annette. "Well, old compared to us." "Okay, so how do you want to do this?" asked Eric. "Go buy some gas we don't need and start dropping hints, tell a few nigger jokes, what?" "Let's just do it, Eric." She turned and looked at him. "Last call, Eric. You can at least stay in the car. You know I'm not asking because I doubt you. I'm asking because I love you, and I owe you one final chance to back out of this." "I know," said Eric, opening the car door. "I love you, Annette. Now let's go see if we can cop ourselves a couple of life sentences." They got out of the car as the customer drove away and walked up to the pump jockey. "What can I do for you kids?" he asked cheerily. On closer inspection, he was a thin man of medium height. His long hair beneath the battered and stained baseball cap on his head was a dirty blonde laced with gray, and he looked at them through cheap Walmart wire-rimmed spectacles with thick plastic lenses. They looked down and both spotted an odd tattoo on his right hand between his thumb and forefinger, a diamond with the crude letters AB over it. Both the young people recognized it as a prison tattoo. "This is going to sound kind of weird, sir, but we're trying to find somebody," said Eric. "I think you might be able to help us. And who might that be?" asked the man politely. Annette stepped forward. "Okay, look, I'll tell you exactly what this is all about. Sir, my name is Annette Ridgeway. This is Eric Sellars. You probably don't remember me at all, but about 2 years ago, my father and I stopped here at your station for a couple of hours to get our car fixed. When I was here then, I saw that behind your counter there you had a little stand with a couple of flags on it. There was an Oregon state flag, and there was a 3-colored flag that was blue and white and green. Plus there were some copies of a newspaper in your waiting room called the Northwest Republic. I think you can guess who we're looking for. Now, have we come to the right place?" While Annette had been speaking, a change had come over the man in front of them. It was impossible to define, except to say that during her few words the man seemed to become somehow hard and real. When Annette had begun speaking, he was a man of flesh and blood. When she finished, through some silent transmutation he was made of steel. "I'm going to ask you a question," he told them both in a soft voice that struck them almost dumb with terror. He did not raise his voice or make any threatening gesture, but all of a sudden both of them understood what they had gotten themselves into. "Who else have you told about me and about this place?" "No one," said Annette. "We told no one," confirmed Eric. "I see. So you two fucking rich kids have the gall to come into my place of business and imply that I am some kind of racist terrorist? You're saying that I hate people because of the color of their skins or their national origin? That I am in some way disloyal to the United States of America? I'll tell you what. Both of you get back into your goddamned Lexus and you get the hell out of here. Do not ever let me see either of you around here again. Am I making myself quite clear?" "Yes, sir," said Annette, gulping. Suddenly she knew that this man was turning over in his mind whether or not he should kill her and Eric. "Yeah, okay, man, our mistake," said Eric. "No offense intended, okay, man? Fine, we'll go. Just be cool, all right?" The two of them backed away and made it back to the Lexus. Eric started the car, and then all of a sudden there was a knock on the window. He rolled it down. The pump jockey leaned in and said to them both, "Look, I don't know what the fuck kind of game you two kids think you're playing, but I'm going to give you a word of advice. Whatever it is you're doing, stop it. One thing I learned at a very young age, about your age in fact, is that if you go looking for trouble, you're going to find it. You don't want to go looking for the boys, because if you do, then somebody who isn't as loyal to this great country of ours as I am might make a phone call, and then the boys might come looking for you. You don't want that. Trust me on this. You don't." He turned and walked away, and Eric peeled the Lexus out of the gas station. The man went inside the gas station, opened the drawer and pulled out a cell phone and dialed a number. A male voice answered. "Sugar Shack. You guys got any more of those jelly donuts you sent me last week?" asked the man. "Plenty," said the man on the other end. "You need some?" "Yeah, I need some donuts right away." He closed the phone. "Damn," he thought to himself, looking around the gas station. "I've been here for 10 years, and now I have to go on the bounce because of a couple of goddamned kids." Back in the Lexus, Eric and Annette were so shaken by the encounter that they pulled off several intersections up the interstate and went into a Denny's for coffee and a quick cholesterol fix. "Jesus," whispered Eric, as they sat in a rear booth inflicting death by ketchup on plates piled high with delicious fried things. "I think the Death Angel's wings just brushed our shoulders. I swear I thought that character was going to kill us. It wasn't what he said, just the way he looked at us. Maybe he just didn't have his gun on him at the time, and that's why we survived." "I think you're right, Annette. I think he is in via—" "Keep your voice down," hissed Annette. "Yeah, I think so too, but it doesn't look like they're going to listen to anything we have to say. Can you blame them?" asked Eric. "Two total strangers rock up out of nowhere and ask them to go kill some guy? I mean, I know that's what they do, but think how it looks to them. Why should they trust us?" "I guess it was a stupid idea," admitted Annette with a sigh. "But it was our only shot at finding them." "Yeah, well, we tried, anyway," said Eric. "So what now? Maybe we can get Lucius busted on drug charges? You know, all that shit he has in his dorm room is still technically illegal. Maybe we can ruin his basketball career." "And do you think anyone gives a flying fuck about him having drugs?" demanded Annette wearily. So long as he doesn't get hooked on them himself and screw up his jump shot. The Portland cops won't do anything. They'll just tell us to go talk to the campus cops, and the campus cops will give him a pass on the dean's orders like they always do. They don't object to his keeping girls overnight in his dorm room. What do they think he's doing with them, playing Parcheesi? Nobody is going to help us, and nobody is going to do anything about him. Flammus is immune, Eric. He can do anything he damned well pleases, so long as he performs on the goddamned basketball court. You know that. He knows it too, growled Eric, the rage and hate starting to build up again inside him as he thought of the arrogant, smirking anthropoid he had seen with his arm wrapped around Annette Ridgeway. I think that's what pisses me off so bad. The way Flammus knows he can do anything he wants, and he just accepts it as the natural order of things. Like he's the king of beasts at Ashdown Academy because he can bounce a ball. He's in one of the most exclusive prep schools in the country, and he can barely write his own name just because he can bounce a ball. He's got his own special tutors and a whole harem of starstruck white girls to do all his homework for him just because he can bounce a ball. He'll probably pass with a higher GPA than you or I will, just because he can bounce a ball. White girls are just there for him to use and throw away like empty malt liquor cans once he's drained them mentally and sexually. They're just there to service the big black badass basketball player. He doesn't care one goddamned bit who he hurts, because white people's children and white people's pain and suffering don't count anymore in America. White people's daughters are just sex objects for mud people's pleasure anyway, so who gives a damn about them? He doesn't care what he did to you, or your parents, or me when he took Jan away from us. Lucius Flammus probably doesn't even know you exist. No, whispered Annette, staring at the corner of the table, her mind racing. No, I don't think he does he? You know, Eric, I think you may be right. I think you may have hit on it. She looked at him. Right now I am thinking over everything Jan ever told me, everything we have been able to learn about their relationship, if you want to call it that. And I think you're right. Even though I go to the same school as the girl he murdered, I don't think Lucius Flammus even knows that I exist. He's never acknowledged my existence. He's never said hello to me in the halls or tried to bullshit me and pull me into his little circle of whores. He likes them young and fresh, like Jan. I think to him I'm just another blonde bimbo he sees around. A blonde bimbo he may or may not have time to get around to before he goes on to play basketball for Duke. I don't think he knows who I am at all. So? Asked Eric suspiciously. He had a vague perception where she was going with this, and he didn't like it. So I can get close to him, she said calmly. I can make him believe I'm a whore like all the rest of them. I can steal one of Dad's guns, get him alone up in his dorm room, and kill him. And what happens to you after that? Demanded Eric. I know it's risky. That's why I don't just steal the gun and walk up to him in the cafeteria or the gym and blow him away, she said. I get him up in his dorm room and claim he tried to rape me. I was defending myself, and with his reputation, who will believe otherwise? So you just happen to go up to a dorm room with the man the whole school knows was doping and screwing your sister, and who drove her to suicide, with a gun in your purse, and you end up shooting him in self-defense? Demanded Eric. Nobody's going to buy that, Annette. You deprive Ashdown Academy of its prize nigger hoops player, and several $1 million in subsidies from the NBA for his care and feeding, pissing off the school administration, and $50 million. Basketball fans who are slavering waiting for this asshole to show up on their TV screens, and you think you're just going to dance away on tiptoe like Tinkerbell? Annette, granted your dad is rich as hell and he can get you a legal dream team that will maybe get you off after a 200-day court case, so long as nobody ever utters the N-word at any point during the trial. But in the process you'll ruin him financially and business-wise. You'll probably drive your mom into a mental institution with worry. You will drag Jan's name through the mud and you'll immortalize this last wretched year of her life on every sleazy cable TV talk show. Make her name synonymous with sex and drugs and teen suicide everywhere that CNN and Fox News and Court TV reaches, and that's the whole damned world. The racial angle will be especially titillating. I'll give you this, Annette, you're a real fox, and you'll look very winsome going in and out of court and sitting at the defendant's table for the cameras while millions of pervs have sexual fantasies about you, and this whole cesspool of a country feasts on Jan's carcass. Jesus, Annette. Don't you get what you'll be doing to yourself and the rest of us? Annette looked up at him, her eyes wet with tears. "Yes," she said. "I'm so sorry, Eric, but I have to. Right now there is only one thing in my mind, in my heart, and in my soul. My sister was mauled to death by a black animal, and it will not be allowed to live. Dad says we have to just learn to accept it when the black or the brown butcher comes into the pen to take away one of us pale hogs for slaughter." "No, no, I won't accept it. Never. An animal took Jan away from me and put her in a hole in the ground forever, and I am going to kill it." "No, you're not," Eric told her gently. "I am going to kill it. Now you listen to me. I don't have any place to get a gun, so you'll have to snag one of your father's weapons for me. That's okay. I'm in and out of your house often enough so if this goes bad, I can claim I stole it. That's all you need to do, Annette. Just get me the piece and some ammunition. I haven't figured out how, and it will take some planning, since I'd kind of like to survive and marry you and have a little girl with you that we can name Janet, but I'll do it." "We'll do it together," Annette told him, taking his hand. Eric decided not to start a long and wearing argument with her that he knew quite well he would lose. "Okay," he sighed. "So, how hard can it be to plot a nigger killing? The NVA does it all the time. Planning a murder turned out to be a lot harder than they thought." As research, Annette had the idea of going to their local video store and renting a large stack of the CSI television series and its many spin-offs, which had been popular in the previous decade, to study crime scene investigative technique that might be used against them by the police. "No, don't rent them," said Eric. "We rent them on our own cards. We're leaving a paper trail right from the beginning. Same thing with downloading them to our computers. You need to hit the ATM, draw some cash, and then we split it, and we each go to different malls in Portland on our own and buy one set of episodes in each video store, only one, so no clerk remembers us coming to the counter with a whole bunch of these things. Then we study each episode and make notes, and after we're done we throw all of them in a dumpster somewhere. No, a bunch of separate dumpsters. We can't let anyone know we're interested in how to whack people out." The two young people did so, and they were able to get most of their research done in a single weekend in the basement rec room at Annette's house, the same one where Jan had died, which Annette found reaffirming and poetically just. Eric reassured Annette's worried parents on Saturday night when Ray took him aside during dinner and hesitantly brought up the subject of condoms. "It's not like that, sir," Eric told them, "and if it was, I can get all the condoms I need from the dispensers at school. No, Annette and I are just spending as much time as we can together trying to renormalize, if you get what I'm saying. We're just watching TV and talking." "In that room?" ventured Lorraine Ridgeway hesitantly. "Yeah, I know, it kind of freaked me out a bit at first, but I think Annette wants to face it and beat it," Eric told her. "Look, folks, I hope you know I wouldn't do anything to get Annette in trouble. She's got enough trouble as it is." "We know that, Eric," said Ray gratefully. "I'm just glad she's got someone like you, her own age, to help her through this. I think if you give us some space for a little while, she'll come down and level off," said Eric in a voice of sincere concern. "You might say we're working through some anger issues." "Thank you, Eric," said her mother with a relieved smile. Fortunately, neither parent walked in on the two of them and discovered exactly what they were watching and making notes on. On Monday morning, a number of crime show discs went into dumpsters around the city, and that afternoon Eric and Annette met in the school library to compare notes. "Okay, so what did we get from all that, besides about 23 hours of political correctness and maybe a cumulative hour's worth of worthwhile information?" asked Annette. "A couple of points spring to mind," said Eric. "First off, do the hit outside, not inside, preferably in the woods somewhere. An outdoor crime scene is much harder for a CSI team to work, and there's much more chance of weather and animals and such contaminating the evidence. An indoor hit is too confined. All the evidence is pretty much there in one room for them to find." "Check," said Annette practically. "Second, always make sure you get rid of the gun. A good defense lawyer can square almost anything except for DNA, and they're connecting you to the murder weapon." "That's a weak point," said Eric. "Should we maybe not use one of your father's guns, but try to get our own from somewhere? I know some lodies who can probably hook me up with a babu." I don't think that's what they call illegal gun dealers anymore," said Annette. "And if they ever did, it was in New York. That was TV, remember? But if we buy from someone, that puts us in the power of the person we get the gun from, who will be able to identify whichever one of us makes the buy." My dad isn't dumb, and he'll know what we've done, and he will go nuts. But he won't rat us out to the police. Yeah, good point, said Eric with a sigh. Which one do we borrow? Your dad has how many pistols? 4, said Annette. Plus a couple of shotguns, an A rifle, and a deer rifle. He bought them years ago, before you practically had to sign your name in your own blood and provide your whole life story since kindergarten on a BATFE form to own a firearm legally. I don't know if there's any police or government record of those guns or not. He's got a Ruger revolver, a Magnum with a short barrel, a cowboy-looking revolver, and a German Luger he says my great-grandfather brought back from World War II as a souvenir. Which one do you want? Skilled mob and NVA hitmen apparently use. All the time, up close and personal, but I'm not a skilled hitman. Flammus is a big nigger, and I need something that will put him down with one shot, and the second will finish him for good. I don't want a wounded animal charging me. Which one is your dad least likely to miss? Asked Sellars. He takes with him a lot when he travels. He's got a special permit for it, because as rich as he is and as important in banking as he is, he's a possible terrorist target. I don't know if we have any bullets for the Luger, and it's old and it might not shoot anyway. It will have to be the cowboy gun. Dad told me once it's called a Colt Peacemaker. It's a replica of the old Wild West gun, and I know we've got a box of shells for it. I don't know how often Dad looks at it. He won't miss it for a while. When he does, he'll know, and he won't ever trust me or look at me again in the same way, but he won't rat me out or tell Mom. You're okay with that? Asked Eric curiously. I haven't got a choice, she said with a shrug. We need to hold off on my stealing the gun until the last minute, so Dad doesn't miss it too soon, but we will also need to test fire it and make sure it works. Yippee-ki-yay then, said Eric. After it's done, we'll need to throw it into the river. Not the river, corrected Annette. The cops drag the rivers along the shorelines and under bridges around Portland for NVA guns about once a week, all up and down the waterfront and as far up as Longview and the Dalles along the Columbia. They use metal detectors and stuff. It's the first place they'll look. Right, I forgot, said Eric. Okay, I've got it. Afterward, I take the gun home and down to my dad's workshop in the basement. He's got everything down there, including a metal-cutting jigsaw laser. I'll cut off the barrel and then slice it into washer-sized rings, so ballistics can never fire a test round and match the bullets that killed Flammus. Then I slice the weapon itself into 4 or 5 unrecognizable pieces and scatter the pieces into different dumpsters all around town. It will take me almost all night, but my folks are used to my doing weird stuff down there at all hours. So that's the gun gotten rid of. Check, said Annette. If you are going to be doing the shooting, you wear disposable gloves and a long-sleeved shirt to catch any of the powder flash, so they can't find powder residue on your hands with a paraffin test. The gloves and the shirt need to disappear as well. Check, said Eric. So with what we've got so far, looks like we need to lure Flammus out in the park or the woods someplace. I'll take care of that, said Annette. You know I'm still not comfortable with that, said Eric with a frown. Okay, we won't go over it again. You get him out into some kind of outdoor woodsy type setting. I'm waiting. I shoot him. Then we both beat feet in opposite directions, and I get rid of the gun, my shirt, and the gloves I'm wearing. But look, you can't be seen with him, because if you are, then you're the first one the cops are going to come after. They'll probably interview you anyway because of Jan, so you'll need an alibi as well. If anyone does see you two together, that means we have to drop this plan and find another one. I agree, said Annette. I've decided I'm going to do this, Eric, but it would be so much nicer if I didn't end up coming out of prison when my hair is white as snow, if ever. How'd we catch him alone? It can't just be any place. It has to be fairly near where we're going to do it so I can give him the come hither and get him to you, and do it all without getting into a car with him. Anytime you get into a car, you leave something of yourself behind that a sharp CSI unit can pick up on if they're looking. For them, placing you in the victim's car or placing him in your car is almost as good as catching you with the gun. Eric sighed. Yeah, that's a poser. He almost never is alone, except when he's in his dorm room at night, and even then half the time he's not alone. You know, he demanded a room to himself when he came here, no roommate, so that he could bring in bitches, as he put it. And Ashdown gave it to him without a quibble. You know, I think this damn school is almost as responsible for Jan's death as Flammus is. This school and all it represents, muttered Annette angrily. Somehow we've got to catch Flammus alone. You lure him to me, then I kill him and we beat feet, which means both of us will need to have our cars nearby. We can't approach him anywhere on the school grounds, because this place has got CCTV security cameras out the asshole. I can see one pointed at us right now. Also, we have to kill him at night. Doing him in daylight is simply too damned risky. Any casual witness will get too good a look at us. You should wear a ski mask like the NVA, especially if we're going to blame it on them, said Annette. Yeah, I guess you're right, but what? Asked Annette. You can't very well walk up to this coon and hit on him wearing a ski mask, so that means you're taking more of a risk than I am, complained Eric. That's very sweet and chivalrous of you, dear, and very silly, said Annette with a pleased giggle. Screw your male macho. Get a mask and wear it, and make it go the way of the shirt and the gloves and the gun afterward. Speaking of the NVA, how are we going to pin this on them so the cops go looking for Spuckies instead of us? Asked Eric. Oh, that's easy. She reached into her purse and pulled out a bicycle deck of playing cards, still in the cellophane wrapper. Once you get your gloves on so you won't leave fingerprints, you cut open this pack of cards and you carefully extract the Jack of Diamonds, and you put it in your pocket. You drop the Jack of Diamonds on his body, and the next day they'll all be yelling on TV about how the cat has struck again. The rest of the card deck goes the way of the other stuff. It's cat eyes, not the cat, and he always uses a rifle, objected Eric. So they'll figure he just decided to do things a little different and get up close and personal with Lucius, said Annette with a shrug. Do you want to make a call to Katu claiming credit for Lucius as an NVA hit? Asked Sellars. Use a rag to muffle your voice or something? Annette shook her head. No, they shouldn't have any recording at all of either of our voices, and besides, I know there's a set form for those calls, and there's an authenticating code word the Goots give them, which we don't have. That's needlessly complicating things. They'll get the message if we leave the Jack of Diamonds. We still don't know just when and where we're going to do this, pointed out Sellars. Annette mused. We need some inside information about Lucius himself, what some of his habits are. We need to start clocking him, but very carefully so he doesn't notice either of us. Shouldn't be too hard since he stays on campus or in the immediate neighborhood all the time. He won't admit it, but he's scared to go into town, said Eric. He takes a couple of campus rent-a-cops with him in plain clothes when he does public appearances, or he goes to the mall, for all the good they'd do him if the NVA decides to hit him. Getting him alone and outside is the problem, said Annette. Damn it, he can't have his entourage with him all the time. What about the campus cops? Said Eric Sellars. I wonder what kind of file they've got on Flammus. As much trouble as he's caused around here, it must be pretty extensive. You're good with computers. Can you hack into their system? Asked Annette eagerly. Even a good hack always leaves a trace, said Eric. No, I just know this one rent-a-cop who likes to play Warrior World and he's having trouble with his gaming software. I'll offer to help him out and see if I can't get him talking about Flammus. Meanwhile, try to think of some way we can set that monkoid up for the kill without getting caught. Eric took Annette out to lunch at a local burger barn the next day and told her his news. I spent last night over at the apartment of that campus rent-a-cop I mentioned, he told her. His name's Mark Moore, by the way. I think I may know him from around campus, said Annette. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. Ex-military police Iraq veteran turned down for the police because of the affirmative action, and also because he used to publish a blog when he was in Iraq saying nasty things about Bush too. He hates it here at Ashdown, riding herd on all U.S. spoiled rich brats, but at least he gets partial medical for his mother, who's real sick, which you don't get much anymore in the private sector, so he sticks it out. He's like a lot of white guys, in that after he puts in his 8 hours he goes home and logs on to his own private fantasy world online. He's actually pretty good at WW, up to level 24 with his latest character, Zoltan. The Duel Master. He says it's either that or the bottle, and if he turns into a drunk he'll lose his job and his mom's insurance, so it's Warrior World. Anyway, we mostly talked computers for about 4 hours. I got his system fine-tuned down to nanosecond response time on his function key and his mouse, and then he broke out the beers and we just started shooting the shit. Didn't take much prodding to get him off onto the subject of Lucius Flammus. Every white campus cop and half the staff hate that nigger's guts. I found out one thing. Flammus isn't quite as puritanical with his dope as he lets on. He likes to smoke weed, and after practice he usually sneaks out back of the gym to smoke a joint or two. Alone, since he doesn't want the coach and his NBA handlers and his fan club to find out he's a user. Did you know that Damned Coon already has his own website and fanzine? The hill that slopes down behind the gym is kind of wooded, pointed out Annette. There's a little path that goes down to some picnic tables they put down there a few years ago as a kind of outdoor lunch area that most people seem to have forgotten about. This time of year it will be dark by the time he gets out of ball practice, and nobody will be down there. That's our kill zone. You're getting good at this, said Eric with a chuckle. Bullshit, I'm scared out of my mind, and if you have any sense you should be too. What about the security cameras? Asked Eric. I'm trying to remember what's back there, said Annette, resting her chin on her fist. Seems to me there's only one at the end of the parking lot, and my guess is that Lucius himself probably doesn't want anyone in the control room watching him smoke his weed, so he probably just hangs out around the corner or behind the dumpster. We scouted out this afternoon, said Eric, in the open. Everybody knows we're hooked up, and if anyone sees us poking around back there, they'll figure we just went out there to snog in private. After school, the two of them took a long walk out behind the Ashdown gym. They saw one camera on a light post at the far end of the parking lot. It's panning, said Eric. That means you have intervals of about 30 seconds when part of the lot isn't under surveillance. That's going to be really tricky, you schmoozing Flammus, and keeping an eye on the camera at the same time. Annette looked around. They seemed to be alone in back of the building. They could hear whistles and bouncing balls and splashing from the swimming pool inside. Okay, we need to check out the old break area, but I don't want security to see us going down there. Let's start walking back toward the quad. They did so. Annette kept her eye on the camera, and when it was swinging the other way, she said, "On, go!" The two of them scampered hand in hand across the parking lot and got down the embankment before the camera swung back. That will look like we disappeared off camera, and if anybody's watching, they'll figure we went back into the campus. A narrow gravel pathway sloped down between a stand of trees on the hillside, down to a small creek running parallel to Highway 212. There was a rustic-looking plank bridge and a few forlorn picnic tables, the wood damp and uninviting. "This is it," she said. "You can get him down here in the dark on a cold, wet night?" asked Eric. "For what I'm going to offer him, yes," she said coldly. "Don't ask." I mean it, Eric," she said fiercely. "Don't ask. Not ever." "All right," he said quietly. "Closed subject. This is perfect. On the day, I bring you to school in my car. We hang out in the library until about 4:30, which is when practice ends. Lucius will need to shower and scour his nasty black ass, so give him half an hour. If he feels like a nice relaxing joint, he may slip out back up there around 5. I gather from Moore that's his MO, so he can work up a nice case of munchies in time for dinner in the dining hall. I come down here first with the gun. Damn, those cameras everywhere. You know, once they find his carcass, they're going to play back every disc and track everybody's movements with a fine-tooth comb. Plus, look at the ground here, pointed out Annette. It's wet and muddy now, and it will be wet and muddy when we do it. We're already leaving footprints. See? She indicated them. Plus, if it's past 5 o'clock, it will be pitch black down here, and none of us will be able to see what the hell we're doing. Shit, said Eric with a sigh. Okay, so it's not perfect after all, he conceded. So what the hell do we do? Annette sat down on one of the picnic tables, ignoring the wet seat that soaked through her wool skirt. Look, you know, maybe we're being too elaborate here, she suggested. This isn't an Agatha Christie novel, and we're not setting up some complex plot for Miss Marple to unravel. This is more like a mafia hit, and I saw on TV once that one reason they're so seldom solved is their very simplicity. Some hood gets lured into the wrong car or walks into the wrong bar, bada bing bada boom. He's dead, there's no gun and nobody saw nothin', and that's where it stays. I know what it said on CSI about trying to get the target outside, in the woods, but the parking lot is outside as well. Let's go back up and have another look at that lot and that security camera. Suppose we just catch him outside, blast him, and melt back onto campus. Maybe we could get some different parkas and hide our faces, and then throw them away afterwards. Annette frowned and furrowed her brow. Geez, this is hard. How do those NVA guys do it all the time? I gather they mostly shoot down their targets on the street, said Eric. I've heard of a few cases where they went into people's houses after them, but not many. Plus there's bombing. You know, I am an engineering student, and I could build us a bomb if we needed it. The chem lab has got enough ingredients in stock. I could make up a pipe bomb with some super black powder, use potassium chlorate instead of sodium nitrate, and that will triple its kinetic energy. And a bomb would really make it look like the NVA. Hold that thought. But I'd rather not risk hurting anyone else besides the son of a bitch who killed my sister, said Annette, ruminating. Look, I can't help but think our window of opportunity is still Flammus's alleged habit of stepping out back of the gym alone to smoke marijuana after practice. It seems to be the only time we know of when he's not surrounded by people. I think it's best we do it then and there, when we'll have some light to see by from the lot and building. Remember, it will be just gone dark. But those damned cameras, especially that one at the corner of the parking lot. Let's get back up there, said Eric. I want to check something. They hiked back up the path, peeped over the top of the grass, and waited until the camera at the far corner of the lot swung away from them. Then they scampered up over the verge and onto the asphalt lot, and around the corner of the gym just as the camera was swinging back. They walked across campus hand in hand and swung a wide arc around, coming into the other leg of the L-shaped gym. Parking lot from the right side of the building. Aha! That's what I thought I remembered, he exclaimed. They wired this place on the cheap, admittedly back before things in the Northwest got this hairy, so they probably saw no need to go overboard on security. There's only the one camera. It pans and covers both wings of the parking lot. Let's see if we can get down there while it's turned away. Go! They ran down the row of parked cars and were under the light pole that supported the camera about 12 feet off the ground before it had panned back to the left. Bingo, he said softly. We've got our plan of attack. Huh? Asked Annette, bewildered. He pointed to a small half-inch conduit cable leading down from the camera to a steel switcher box at shoulder height. They put this system in before the days of wireless as well, he said. Annette, look up. There's the camera. We can see it, but it can't see us, because we're right under it. This is the blind spot. On the morning of the day we decide to do this, we come into school early, Eric told her. We come in my Volvo, so there's nothing that actually points back to you, and that's a bit of chivalry I insist on, Annie. We wait until the camera is pointing away, and then we slide in and park in this space right here. We have to make sure the camera's pointing away, so they will have no digital record of who parked in this spot that day. We get out, leaving the gun and 2 masks and my gloves and my old long-sleeve shirt in the car. I'll need to bring a special shirt for the hit, so I can produce the clothing everybody saw me wearing on the day of the murder if I have to. We dodge the camera and get onto campus without being recorded, at least not in this lot. And then we go on with our normal school day, hanging out late in the library like I said. About 4:45, we leave together. When we get outside, we walk down in front of the gym, and as we turn the corner, we camera dodge our way back to the car. Again, we have to make sure we're not recorded in this area. The lot should be pretty well cleared out by then. I'll back in park that morning, and so we should have a clear view of the back door of the gym. When we get in the car, I will take off my jacket and shirt, and I'll put on the throwaway long sleeve I brought, and the gloves. Then we sit, and we wait. I'll bring some binoculars from home. When we see Flammus step out the back door, we have to move fast. The first thing we do is we check this parking lot for any possible witnesses. There shouldn't be any by then, since most of the residential kids will be in the dining hall chomping down. If the coast looks clear, then we proceed to step B, Eric continued in a professorial tone. I get out and I cut that electric conduit cover with a pair of bolt cutters, insulated handles so I don't fry my ass. That will shut down the spy camera. That's the point of no return. We will have to assume that security will immediately notice the loss of the camera and send somebody out, so we will have about 5 minutes, maybe a little less, before someone comes around that corner looking to find out what's wrong. That should be enough time. I get back in the car. Did I mention that you will be driving? Thou art most gracious, my lord, simpered Annette. I wondered where I came into this plan of yours. I'm going to need my hands free, especially my gun hand, as the old cowpokes down on the range would say. Once that camera goes, I get back in the car and pull on my mask. You need to get a mask of some kind, too. Yeah, I know. If someone sees us, they might get the license number of the car, so the masks might seem pointless. But we might as well give ourselves every bit of edge we can. You start the car and drive toward Flammus. Not too fast, because we don't want to alarm him. You pull up beside wherever he's standing, puffing his joint and feeling pleased with himself, most likely on the sidewalk there, or maybe sheltering in the doorway if it's raining. If I can get a good clear shot from the passenger seat, I'll shoot him dead center. Then I'll get out of the car and put one in his head, close in. If we're going to be spending the rest of our lives in prison or dying on a gurney with a needle in our arm for this, I want to make damn sure the black bastard's dead. I put the jack of diamonds on him. Then I get back in the car and you drive off, around the gym, then out that exit there. He pointed over his left shoulder, then out onto the entrance drive, down onto 212, and home. We drop you off first in West Lynn, and then after supper I'll ask Dad for the keys to the jigsaw for some iron brackets and fittings I'm making for our new deck, and tear down the gun. I'll also shred all the other stuff into rags and burn them in our waste furnace we use for sawdust and such. The next morning I'll leave for school and take a tour of the scenic dumpsters of Portland. Of course, all it takes is one witness to ID the car and we're toast, pointed out Annette. If we see one single person in the area who might witness the hit, then we abort, said Eric. But you know, it will be dark, and even if somebody does see it go down by accident, it will probably be at a distance. If all of our other forensics comes up squeaky clean, we might be able to bluff our way out of some guy's fleeting glimpse of a vehicle under a streetlight. But I agree, it's a risk, especially using one of our own cars. You want to back off and try to come up with something else? No, I want to get this done, said Annette, shaking her head. I don't know how long I can keep all this up before I start gibbering. I have a good feeling about hitting him in this area, and it's the only likely place we've come up with. In this time and place, there can be no justice without risk. Let's do it. Okay. Now, if the cops don't buy the NVA angle, you'll receive a visit from them, since you have a motive for whacking Flammus. You tell them we left and came straight home, and don't vary from that story. Be very vague about where I was parked, but only if you are asked. Don't volunteer anything. If it starts looking at all dangerous, be very prim and polite, shut your trap, and yell for the best lawyer your father's money can buy. You're rich enough so they can't pull a Patriot Act on you. They'll have to actually prove something, with evidence. Got it, said Annette. When's the next basketball practice? Today, said Eric. But it's too soon. We don't have the gun yet. Next practice is Thursday, day after tomorrow. I'll get the gun and the ammo for you tonight and give it to you when you pick me up tomorrow, said Annette. We'll need to find some place to test fire it. Let's hope my dad doesn't notice it's gone before it's served its purpose. What if Lucius doesn't come out to smoke his dope on Thursday afternoon? Then we have to wait for him every practice night until he does, said Eric. Sound good to you? Any questions? If there are, I'll ask them when we go over this for the 100th time, which is the number of times we need to go over it. But yes, it sounds good. Will Jan rest easier after this? Annette wondered aloud. Will you? Asked Eric. I know I will, she said. You know, there's another advantage to this plan, said Eric soberly. Doing it this way, you don't have to degrade yourself with your sister's murderer, in body or in spirit. I noticed. Plus, I get to wear a mask, like a real terrorist. Eric, thank you. She kissed him, and Annette's kisses were rare enough so that each one was a treat worth remembering. They did go over it 100 times, and in the gathering darkness on Thursday evening, it all worked perfectly. The dark gods of homicide favored them in all things. Annette was amazed at herself. How calm she was. How right it felt as she pulled a baseball cap down over her head, a scarf up over her face, and eased the Volvo up beside the huge Negro. She heard him scream "Mutafukka" one last time as the peacemaker in Eric's hand split the air in a thunderclap and a lightning flash, splattering the wall behind Flammus with his blood. Then came another thunderbolt as Eric got out of the car, leaned down and fired into the kicking, gabbling black lich on the ground, and a sorry-ass nigger died a nigger's death. Eric tossed the playing card down on the ground beside the corpse, got back into the car, and they left. The ride home was completely silent. In Annette's driveway, they came together in a passionate kiss, and before she got out of the car, she whispered to him, "This weekend, we make the time and find the place, and I don't mean the back of a car or the band room this time." And they did. Nor did Annette even get a visit from the police. The law bought the NVA angle without question. The media certainly did. The talking heads on television and the headlines in the newspapers shrieked in horror. Racist terror claims NBA hopeful, and KDS leaves his calling card on corpse of African-American athlete, and Oregon mourns for prep school hoop star. Dean Hopkinson spluttered in a stunned and ragged voice to the reporters. We have no idea how that racist murderer got onto our campus or got off. It's like he's a ghost. If Ray Ridgeway noticed that one of his handguns was missing, he said nothing. He said nothing at all, in fact, about Flammus's death, which was a significant omission. Annette took that to mean that he probably suspected something, since she knew her father was far from a fool. But he had simply decided that now was not the time or place to go into the matter, for which he was intensely grateful. Once more Annette had occasion to wear her mourning dress, a delicious irony in which she delighted. 3 days after the killing of Lucius Flammus, classes were canceled at Ashdown Academy, and the entire student body and faculty drove to North Portland in buses, or in their own cars too. Flammus's funeral at the First African Methodist Church, a large building that fortunately had a large parking lot across the street to accommodate the fleet of cars, buses, and limousines. Eric escorted her, dressed in an immaculate suit with a black armband, and they sat grim-faced through the eulogies and stood respectfully for the hymns from the robed black singers, albeit the choir was smaller than usual. Many of Portland's African-American residents were finally starting to get the message and were departing for healthier climates outside the Pacific Northwest. One of the most moving of the eulogies from Ashdown came from Wade Shoemaker, Annette and Eric's English teacher, a portly middle-aged man who literally broke down in tears at the podium. So distressed was he at the loss of this brilliant young adornment to Portland's African-American community and to the gorgeous mosaic that was America. The funeral was crowded with state and local politicians and media, and surrounded by a security cordon of hundreds of heavily armed police and National Guard and FBI SWAT teams. The NVA had been known to attack funeral services that threatened to turn into political statements before this. Eric and Annette waited patiently for the crowd to thin out before crossing the street to where the white Lexus was parked, beside a long black stretch limo. You actually didn't burst out laughing, Eric told her in a low tone. I'm impressed. Now that was above and beyond the call. I don't care if they arrest me now, said Annette. If they just take me and not you, I honestly don't care if they kill me now, Eric. I've done right by Jan, and however long I have to live without her, I can take comfort in that. The Sicilians say that revenge is the only dish that tastes best when it's served cold, said Eric. Well, that may be, but I can tell you, it tastes damned good served hot as well. Give me the keys, I'll drive. They stopped at the rear of the Lexus, and as Eric took the keys from Annette, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around and found himself facing a spare and bespectacled man in a chauffeur's uniform and cap, presumably from the VIP limo next to them. Hello again, Eric, the man said with a polite smile. Hello again, Annette. Do we know you? Asked Eric suspiciously. Sure you do, the chauffeur said easily. Hank Jarrett. I used to run Jarrett's Tune and Loop down in Woodburn, but I've got a new job now. I had to give up my service station, see, when a couple of smart-ass preppy kids came by asking stupid questions. Eric gulped and mumbled, well... He and Annette took a step back, but Annette almost stepped on the toes of someone standing behind her. She whirled and saw a lean and handsome young man with auburn hair, a devilish twinkle in his blue eyes, and a slight sardonic smile. He was dressed in a suit as neat as Eric's, with the same black mourning band on his arm. Good afternoon, Mr. Sellars, he said. Good afternoon, Miss Ridgeway. My name is Jesse Lockhart. I'm told you two have been taking my name in vain. Oh, shit, gasped Annette, white-faced. Oh, shit, indeed, said Lockhart amiably. Behind them, Jarrett opened the door of the limousine. We'd like a word, please, said Cat Eyes, gesturing toward the black, yawning interior of the limo. Get in the car.